Now, what we are all witnessing right now is a turning point in hip hop, music, and maybe even entertainment history, because with Drake's most recent move, he is no longer trying to get back at Kendrick Lamar with some sneak disses or with some petty antics. But with what Drake has done, he is now trying to manipulate the law in his favor, as he has just accused Kendrick Lamar and his and Kendrick's own label UMG of artificially inflating everything the label could have in their power to promote Kendrick's diss track Not Like Us. And now, as this song is now in writing from Drake and his team as being the moment that officially ruined him and his entire career like no other track ever has, because now, despite any speculation and coping that people want to do, there are statements written in this lengthy suit that say directly because of the track, Drake has not been financially the same due to everything he lost after it came out. Now with this, we haven't just seen Drake actually admit that everything Kendrick did was effective to him, not just in terms of ruining his reputation as a rapper, but also as a brand and business. But in the greater sense, we are seeing the most pathetic cop-out and admission of defeat that we have ever seen from somebody who has ever even considered themselves to be a rapper. And really, with what Drake is doing here, this is arguably the worst move he has ever made in his entire career, which is saying a lot. And now, before we get further into why this is the case, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, it helps me out a ton. And so now with this move that Drake is trying to pull, I mean, the fact that they are even letting this guy file a lawsuit that is seriously stating these things just shows how much of a problem it is when you have all these yes men around you who will support and enable you to further believe in any delusions you have. Because when you really read into what Drake is trying to accuse all parties he is targeting here, through all the claims about his label trying to ruin him, the streaming companies doing everything they can to help this happen, and then Kendrick Lamar just running and seemingly leading all these practices, which made Not Like Us the hit and statement that it became. When you boil all this down, no matter how you want to read this thing, you don't have to dig too deep to realize what Drake is doing is trying to manipulate evidence and seemingly alter the perception of the reality we have all witnessed. Because let's just face what Drake is saying here. The label who has paid him a LeBron James-sized contract and who is seemingly their biggest financial investment alongside Taylor Swift wants to destroy him? And then the streaming services who, over everything, benefit the most from Drake over any other artist, because from exclusive deals with them in the past, to just when we look at the law of numbers, with Drake being a major name in the industry who drops 20 plus song albums every year, he benefits their algorithms and the business models that they rely on to make money more than any other artist in the streaming era has. All of a sudden, you're telling me that the company who put out billboards and notices that Drake is coming with diss tracks now wants to crush his name and reputation? I mean, it doesn't take a law degree to figure out that Drake is trying to use all these big terms and claims to try and deceive the public of the truth, and of course, try to change the narrative around what happened between him and Kendrick Lamar, because now, as nothing else has worked, the only route Drake has left is to do something like this, where now he is calling in the powers that no other rapper has ever even thought of, to try and validate his own delusions and rewrite the history that Kendrick Lamar made right before our own eyes. And while people like me and you and the majority of hip-hop culture see right through this, and Drake has already been slammed and clowned by people around Kendrick Lamar, like TDE's very own Punch, DJ Mustard himself who produced the song, and even Rhapsody, who really just put this situation into its proper context best. Beyond hip-hop culture, and I think Drake realizes this, and this is what's so messed up about this situation. While hip-hop culture is too smart to believe something as ridiculous as what we are seeing from Drake, on some level, he knows this, and what Drake is really trying to do here is manipulate his own fans the most of all people, to now feel bad for him and make him this tragic figure who has been wronged and turned on by the entire industry. And because of all these big claims that have been thrown out here, and again, when you remember that from every single big hip-hop media personality pretty much saying that he was a winner or was gonna win this beef before Kendrick went on the run that he did just a few months ago, and you also remember the fact that he is in direct contact with every massive streamer and content creator, and they were not just rooting for Drake throughout the entire beef as well, but in the case of someone like Academics, they use their entire brand and platform to push the narratives that Drake wants to get out, all to boost his image and tear down others like Kendrick. Well, once again, everything Kendrick Lamar said in his songs are aging masterfully. Because with what Drake is doing here, he is showing just how much of a manipulator he can be and how far he is willing to go to try and save his image. And I mean, if you think about this in context with the history of hip-hop, Drake has to be the biggest sore loser we have ever seen, because when you compare this move to when he dropped back-to-back and won his beef with Meek Mill, and then pushed memes about the song that clowned Meek everywhere, went on major shows like Saturday Night Live to keep humiliating Meek, and also ended up being nominated for a Grammy with this song. Now that the tables have flipped, you're really seeing that Drake is just going against Kendrick Lamar because he was beat at his own game. And now because of this, Drake is gonna go against the very root of the culture of the thing that has made him famous in the first place and try to support his goals. And again, everyone in hip-hop sees the play he's trying to pull here. And again, while the only thing that is not giving him any negative attention in this situation is the narrative that he is trying to take on the major label Sista by doing this, don't be fooled by this. Drake is just being a sore loser and is trying to hide behind the mask of protecting all artists. But like Rhapsody said, he is really just doing this all for himself. And now, in terms of how this looks in hip-hop culture, nobody who really loves the art and sport of rap is ever gonna forgive Drake for doing this, because even when we look at the biggest losers in rap beef, nobody besides him would ever do this, as seriously, this makes someone like Ja Rule look tough and respectable. But now going back to what Drake is doing here, which at the bottom line, is now going to make his fan base become the most delusional group of supporters maybe in all of music. I mean, of course the people who still think Drake won this beef and that a song like Drake's Heart Part 6 is good are gonna back him here. And now worse than this, with such big claims being thrown against such big names, they are only going to get louder and louder in their support for him. So while from the entirety of hip-hop culture to really a lot of casual listeners as a whole now, although most people are all done with Drake and the charts have been a reflection of this, as Kendrick Lamar has been dominating them and Drake has just missed the mark with everything he has released this year. As long as he can keep this base of delusional stands around him and just galvanize their support, as they will 100% believe any lie they tell him and will do anything that he says, Drake will be able to continue to be this annoying presence in hip-hop and music who is going to keep trying to take the rest of the genre down with him. And I mean, the precedent of what he is doing here is just terrible. And in this era where Kendrick is trying to make hip-hop just be its most authentic self again after we just lost the plot of what this genre should represent for so long, Drake taking things to this level is trying to detract from this very message in the worst way possible. And now, fortunately, Kendrick Lamar has already done such a historic job this year, and aside from any claims about Kendrick doing what he did inorganically, I mean, the fact that nobody seems to be believing what Drake is saying here really shows more than anything that he has made such a genuine and powerful impact all over the world. But even with this, as Drake is now dragging out this beef into a standoff between all of the major companies in the music industry and of course him and Kendrick, this is just uncharted territory for the entirety of hip-hop, because in the past, no matter what the circumstances were, rappers always just kept it so real, and even with the most scathing diss tracks like Nas's Ether for example. No matter how much of a mogul someone like Jay-Z was and how much he could have lost from such an embarrassing diss track being released against him, he would have never done something like this because he knew and everyone else knew that this would be the most anti-hip-hop thing you could ever even think of. But again, as the theme of this beef between Drake and Kendrick has really been about who is hip-hop and who is not, I guess after months of seeing these two drop diss tracks, follow up their performances in their beef, and now see where they are at right now, one is just continue to create moments that support and build the culture, as from the pop-out show to taking rap all the way to the Super Bowl, to then giving us a new album, to then putting on so many upcoming rappers from your own city on that album so other people can shine and have their lives changed alongside you. All Kendrick has been doing is pushing the culture forward. Meanwhile, with Drake, from running away from hip-hop and disrespecting the genre at every corner he can, to sitting more on stream and on his phone than he is in the booth, to now where he is trying to create a whole suit to change the narrative of how a rap beef went because he didn't like the outcome of how it ended. Overall, Drake has really fallen to a low that I don't think he will ever come back from, because seriously, what he is doing here is trying to dispel the very essence of competition and authenticity in hip-hop. And so overall, while this is just a ridiculous day that will go down in hip-hop history as one of the hands-down most pathetic moves we have ever seen from someone in this culture, at least we know that no matter where Drake goes from here, he will never be able to step anywhere near this genre with any type of respect ever again. And so now with all of this said, please let me know, what do you think of this latest move from Drake, and what do you think this all means for hip-hop as a whole? When we really look at all of this, it really has a chance to change a lot about both hip-hop and the music industry at large as a whole, and really in the grand picture of it all. I mean, this is seriously one of the craziest situations, and based on the path Drake is on currently, it's only gonna get a lot worse from here. So if you have anything to add or anything that's important about this moment, please let me know. Now, I can't wait to hear what you have to say, and if you made it to this point in the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. And now if you want to see how right before Drake did this, he crashed out on Kendrick Lamar and dissed him in one of the worst live streams really of all time, check out the suggested video.